Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you my newest motorcycle. That's right, guys, this right here is a 1986 Yamaha VMAX. We're coming up on the 40th anniversary of the VMAX. First introduced in 85, 86 and 85 were the same, and I think 87 got some minor improvements as well as they reduced the horsepower. But right here is my favorite color in my favorite year of the original VMAX. In the later years, I don't really like them as much. They changed minor things. They probably ride a decent amount better, but as far as looks, straight up appeal, this right here is it for me. But I wanted to buy a V4 for a while now, and I thought VFR, maybe a VFR, but then I just said, I gotta get a VMAX. This motorcycle right here is my fastest motorcycle, believe it or not. Yes, this motorcycle on paper makes more horsepower than my Honda RC51, a homologated leader bike. This is a 1200cc V4. Honda was doing the same thing in the mid-80s. Just about the same year that they came out with the VMAX, Honda came out with the RC30 and VFR. But this was a completely different kind of bespoke machine that Yamaha made, and it kind of came out of nowhere. We'll go more into detail on the history and stuff in it in the future. You can hear the Harley in the distance. VMAX guys will swear that the VMAX is the greatest motorcycle ever created, which, well, after riding it for a little bit, I just put on 12 miles, my first ever miles with the VMAX here. I bought it in January, believe it or not. This was the first motorcycle I purchased this year, but I just wanted to make a video and actually get out and ride it. When I bought the motorcycle, it wasn't behaving quite right, and I was worried I'd need to do a little bit of carb work, but luckily, I didn't have to do that, and we'll talk about that in a second. The very first time I ever heard about the VMAX was probably when I was around 10 years old, give or take. I remember my dad had always had motorcycles at this point, so I kind of was a little familiar with them, and one of my neighbors was riding his VMAX. So I kind of asked my dad, like, what is that weird motorcycle? He's like, oh, that's a VMAX. It's a wicked machine. And that's kind of the last and only time I heard about VMAX, all the way until about last year, early last year. I kind of forgot this motorcycle existed. And one of my buddies and I just kind of started talking about motorcycles one day. The VMAX came up and I'm like, yo, I need to get a V4. I should just get a VMAX. And so the long journey of trying to find one for a reasonable price with reasonable miles with a reasonable condition began, because it's not easy. I was really keen on getting an early VMAX, like the first 2 years, even though they do have a couple of issues with their transmissions. But basically, when you click it into gear, it's going to just not have the gear, and then you got to go into third. Not the biggest problem in the world, but also not fun. And then I ended up finding this machine right here. I kind of texted the guy. He was firm on his price for a while, and I contemplated it. I had one get away from me earlier, and I kind of regretted it for a similar price point that, why didn't I just buy it? And then the time came, it was a couple months after I bought the Gold Star, so I was like, I can afford to ball out a little bit, and I purchased this bike here. I really just wanted to ride one of these motorcycles after I started doing more and more research on them, and it's just cool that, it was a motorcycle I remember from when I was a little bit younger, even though it was only a few times I saw the bike ever. It's still just cool to me. Without further ado, I'm gonna stop yapping and let's actually get onto the bike. I'll explain why it wasn't running quite right, what I did. Let's gear up and get on the road. This motorcycle is a little bit dirty, unfortunately. Apparently she has been sitting on and off for a little while. The previous owner didn't ride her too much, and he basically told me that he wanted to experience a VMAX one time and that he had experienced it, and it kind of sat around, didn't put too many miles on it. This motorcycle, the day I bought it, it was really, really cold outside. It was like negative 15 degrees, and I wanted to take it out for a test ride, and she was not running like that whatsoever. Kind of got me worried, but I'm like, maybe it's just running a little lean because of how cold it is. And I'm like, I don't know, but I bought it. But he was like, yeah, it was running great. It's probably because, just how cold it is, it doesn't want to run right. I got it back to the store. His bike sat for a little bit. I tried starting it a couple times, and it didn't want to run quite right. And I'm like, maybe it just has really old gas. I smelled the gas, even the fumes coming from the exhaust, and it just smelled really old. And it didn't want to run unchoked. What I did today is I pulled the bike out, and I'm like, all right, today I'm gonna get it running. Let's see what it's like. Finally a nice day outside today, and I pulled her out. I had drained the gas tank on my CB750, so I had gas from like October in it, give or take, October, November, but it had stable in it. So I put that fuel in it. Like, this will get me down. At least it'll fill the bike up with a little bit of fresher gasoline, because the gas in it smelled like a year or 2 years old. Did that, put a little seafoam in it, bought seafoam, and said, you know what, I might as well try it, and if it can save me from doing the carburetors, it's going to be worth it. Bike came to life, but it was still running pretty poorly.
gave her a couple nice revs, and well, she started to behave a little bit more and more. Took it to the gas station, filled up the tires, which were awfully low. I mean, I think the front tire had like 18 psi and the rear was on 12 psi. So I did that, put fresh fuel in it, and she started to behave almost right away. I guess the old fuel that was in the carburetors got sucked up with the choke, and it was starting to run on some fresher stuff, and now she's running great. I guess it just had been sitting for a few years and the bike just wanted to be opened up a little bit. But it's very comfortable. The bike feels very small as well because the handlebar is really small. The gauge, you got the speedo there, the tack down there, and it feels very narrow. Also, that front end is so small. For how big this motorcycle is, that front end definitely does not cut it. I've had a few people tell me who have been on these bikes before, yeah, that front end will get squirrely with you when you try pitting the bike just because of how narrow it is. And I've definitely experienced that already without even pushing the bike too hard. I was originally going to take this back to the storage and leave it there, but I think for now I am actually going to take her home and ride her for a few days and get some miles back on it. The bike needs its fluids changed. It needs new hydraulic fluid in the clutch, and it needs new brake fluid for sure. You can tell that it's just got old fluid in it, and it's definitely not at its most powerful braking feel. Dual discs in the rear, single in the back, shaft driven V4. But I mean, if I do just roll onto the brake here, that's front brake. I should be getting way more front brake than that. And in the rear, I'm getting the super bad feedback. So, I mean, it just tells me that she needs to be refreshed, which I don't mind whatsoever. This V4 is really nice to ride. It's got plenty of torque down low, and up top on like a V-twin, it doesn't roll off in terms of the power band, and unlike an inline 4, it doesn't have this screaming kind of massive increase in jolt when you get into the higher RPM. It just pulls really, really linearly throughout the power band. There's never a huge kind of jump and massive surge of power. You can definitely feel around 45 to 5,000 is really when it starts to kick in really nicely. You can tell right there, 4,000, 5,000, and it picked up quite a bit. It's a pretty wicked machine. I don't want to roll onto it and pin it like crazy. I had a couple nice accelerations. I thought I had the camera on, but I didn't. But there's a whole lot of screaming, oh my god, I cannot believe how fast this thing is.
And there's a quick little ride. I feel like I didn't do a great job at explaining exactly what the VMAX is. We have a little bit of snow coming down. It's significantly colder right now than it was earlier today. But this is the first time this motorcycle's ever been home. This is a muscle cruiser. It's kind of like the first of its kind. It was a very revolutionary thing when the VMAX first came out, and Yamaha kind of just came out with it just out of the blue, it seems. Definitely going to be doing a review. We'll be doing more of a riding review. Unfortunately, the snow's coming down, so if that doesn't last, we'll definitely be taking her out on a next nice day here. This motorcycle needs a little bit of cleanup. It's been sitting for a little bit. It got 31,000 miles on it, so it's broken in, but not too high of mileage. Definitely still in a reasonable territory. It's going to need all its fluids. It's going to need a rear tire. It's going to need a couple of small things here and there, but it's really not too bad for its age. Especially with the complexity and how much stuff is going on. I've seen these bikes in really, really poor condition, so this bike has been cared for, and now it just needs a little bit of love because it's been neglected for what seems like 3 to 5 years. Nothing crazy, but it has kind of been sitting around. Anyways, it's really, really cold. If you guys want to see more content on the VMAX, make sure to subscribe and click here to watch some of my other motorcycles that I've bought in the past years.